Growing up, I drank the Kool-Aid of my parents' and community's beliefs. I made that belief system more important than my own needs and happiness. Looking back, I can't fault anyone for that, not even quote-unquote God. I now have clarity in decisions and choices I make. I'm fully engaged in finding joy in my life, in my own way, without the influence and construct of others. This is an uplifting discussion from there to now.
Hey, hey. As we feel the music in our body, as we all should. We should all feel the music in our body.
I mean, I was really vibing out.
Yeah. And my voice just got deeper and sultrier.
It was because of my suggestion.
Thanks, Sean. We were just talking about how the word demure has been really annoying the fuck out of us. And I was thinking, who am I going to talk to about this? And I said, Samantha. Samantha is my person to talk to about this.
Okay, but was it because I'm very demure and I'm very mindful?
No. No, but you seem to have a pulse on what's going on in social media. I mean, you do social media marketing. You're out there, you're seeing the things, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram. I'm really not on social media that much. I try not to be. I don't have a TikTok account.
That's okay.
People send me links to see videos and I'm like, can you just show me in person when I see you? Because it forces me to sign in and I won't do it.
I mean, you got to know your boundaries.
And then my daughter came to me and she said, I think this was like a month or 2 months ago, she said, Mom, what does demure mean? And I had no idea why she was asking me. And so we talked about what demure is.
Did you look up the definition? I'm curious.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to do that.
That's okay. I'm going to look it up right now while you're talking.
I did at one point because at first I described it to her and then I looked it up and I was like, dead on. Basically, it means to be quiet and soften and basically pull back and dampen all of you and be something that's not you.
So this says on TikTok, demure is a slang term that means to be cutesy, clean, and mindful while also being respectful and not drawing attention to oneself.
But that makes me want to hurl in my mouth. However, I don't trust the source of TikTok. Look up the dictionary. See what
Actually,
is it?
I got it here on the screen right here.
Okay, what is it?
Oxford. Reserved, modest, and shy, typically used of a woman.
Meek, mild.
Modest, assuming, meek, mild, reserved,
Modest.
retiring, quiet, shy.
Oh, God.
More definitions.
Why are we encouraging this with women, and how did this happen? Like, how did this start, Samantha? Because I don't know.
It's actually kind of a cute trend. So, it's
actually, if you look on the screen, you can see the trend of the word use.
Oh wow, that's super cool.
Shoots up. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It shoots right up. Wow, I just felt really special there. I was just listening to Theo Vaughn, and like he has like a producer in the background who's always like pulling up stats and stuff. And I was like, damn, Heather's made it.
I sure have. Look at Sean. You've just made him.
Wow. All right. Okay. Anyway, woo, got a little hot in here.
I think it got hot before we got started.
The demure trend it was kind of cute. It wasn't, meant to be like demeaning. It wasn't like telling people to be, women to be a certain way. It's actually like an African American. Wow. All of a sudden I was like, words don't exist. It's an African-American male. I'm not quite sure how he identifies. So that's where I got kind of tripped up in my head. But he wears like makeup and dresses kind of femme and stuff. And he was talking about how he was like, see how like I just do my makeup very demure for work. Oh. So he was saying he doesn't like, show up like in full drag to go to work. And he's like, I'm very mindful. I'm very cutesy. And so it was kind of fun. It was cute, you know? And I do know that it's completely changed that guy's life, like completely, because I think it was Verizon like picked up an ad with him. And, he went from like being really, really broke, you know the story. And now this has totally changed his life, where I saw the other day he was like flying first class to go to an event that this company was flying him out to. Oh, so fun. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
That is. I like flying first class.
Oh, I love it. I just flew first class the other day. I loved it.
Yeah, one day I'm going to have a private jet too. Anyway,
well, yeah, I'm working on that, obviously. Obviously. I'm very demure that way.
Is it this guy that you were talking to?
Oh.
No, that's not him.
That's not him? That's not him. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, well then it's really gone a little too viral in the fact that
it did go mega viral. So
everyone wants to be demure, even though do they even really know what the fuck that means? Yeah,
so it was more of like a trend that's like, it's very demure. I'm very mindful, I'm not wearing like a cut crease to work is what he was saying, which I was like, I like that,
Right.
But I think if we look at demure and we're applying it to like its original meaning, because I think of like 50s, 60s housewife.
Yeah,
And, you know,
ladylike. That word ladylike is so triggering to me. And I was having a conversation with girlfriends a couple of months ago about the word ladylike and how we're taught to be ladylike and we need to be a particular way. And we have it's the three of us. We actually were on the dating podcast we did. It was me, Beverly, and Amy. And Amy was like, but my grandma told me that I needed to be ladylike. And what does ladylike mean? It's pretty much demure. And why are women being told to be ladylike? Why? I feel like it's just another way to contain us and restrict us and basically dampen our superpowers.
I mean, especially if it's being used in that way, you know? Okay, so I have a question. Why does it trigger you, like when people are like, be ladylike, Heather?
Hold on, let me access the recesses of my trauma from when I was 4 years old. Just kidding.
No, but do you think it just stemmed from like the religion you grew up in and...
All of the above, honestly. So I would say it's probably the religion that I grew up in, the Mormon religion, but also too culturally, I've seen women, not even in the Mormon religion, strive to be ladylike, to be contained, to not show emotion, to look perfect. It's like the Stepford wife kind of thing. And it's such a trend that has been going on since when? I mean, we had the swinging 20s, roaring 20s, where everyone was like, fuck corsets and cut their hair and started wearing these things. But then somehow
But they were still wearing dresses and lipstick.
Short dresses and showing their ankles. I mean, that's a huge progression from the Victoria era. But then at one point, was it after World War II? Like in the 40s when this whole ladylike and constraining yourself came back into
Don't you think of like
order?
casseroles and vacuums?
Yeah. And I think of really cute dresses and hats and gloves, actually. And I have some of my grandma's old dresses that I love dressing up in.
Which is fun.
It is.
Know?
It is fun, for sure.
But I think feeling like you have to present yourself a specific way to kind of appease those around you, like to not upset them and not bother them, that's kind of where I think of demure. And that to me is just... It's a little wild.
It is. Well, it kind of follows the whole cancel culture thing, too. It's like literally don't speak your truth. Do not be authentic because you're going to offend everyone around you. And you should be more concerned about everyone else's needs and wants over yours.
Yeah. And that's something I struggle with a lot is because I put stuff out on social media and I'll have people close to me like say stuff, you know, and I feel like I end up cycling through people fast because I'm like, oh, like you liked me. You were attracted to me for my big, bright energy. And then you're like, please put a lid on that because it's making me uncomfortable.
Right. And that's so fascinating because I brought this book, Women Who Run with Wolves, and basically...
I'm like, great, now I'm going to be reading that all weekend.
Oh my gosh, I have been devouring it.
Okay, what are some of your favorite takeaways so far? How far?
Not that far into it. But she
see.
brings up a really interesting point in this book that I've read so far in the first pages. First couple of pages.
You're 11 pages in. I was like, so what are your takeaways so far? Page 11.
Basically, she says that if you don't act in accordance to this silent agreement with women to be ladylike and be demure, I'm basically putting this in my own words, and you will still be ostracized. You'll be ostracized by other women because you are not acting like everyone else and you are not being demure and ladylike. And I'm experiencing that. I've literally had 2 women literally come at me and not like me out of the blue just because I am truly just being me, speaking my thoughts. And it's not even in a mean way. I'm just like, this is what I think about that subject. And it's been a complete repulsion from these women on such an unconscious level. And it fascinates me.
How do you handle situations like that?
I feel so much compassion and kindness towards them because
how do you not take it on though, where you're like, oh my God, like I am a horrible person, or, oh, I should be more demure.
No.
Like I know you don't, but like, what are some of
Absolutely
your
not.
practices where you're like, I'm not doing that?
Well, this is the thing too. I find that people on a general whole are not being seen and heard. And that's why people act out in the way they do and say the things they do. And so I went on a fun Sunday adventure to Mesquite with some friends, and we went to the Mesquite Elks. It was a girlfriend and her friend.
You went to the Elks Lodge?
Oh my God,
I've done
yes.
that once. I've done that
so
once.
much fun. And then, oh my gosh, the potluck was great.
I know, they do like a whole dinner.
Antelope sausage.
Antelope?
Yeah, it was really
Gosh, I haven't had antelope since I was a kid. That was a random okay, anyways.
So she literally was talking the entire time, and there really wasn't an opportunity to have an actual conversation. She just literally was diarrhea of the mouth. And
Wait,
so
at you, about you?
No, about people
Oh,
and
okay.
things and life and whatever. And she really required hardcore attention from my friend and I. And I even got off from the table to go grab something and come back, and she was offended that I had walked away while she was in this diatribe of like 30 minutes in. And I was like, girl, I need a break. Like, this eye contact is hard. And
Whoa.
and so she literally just diarrhea of the mouth the entire day. We went to the Beaver Dam bar also and listened to some live music and hung out with.
You had a gangster day.
That is it's one of my favorite Sundays.
Yeah.
And so then we ended up at the Elks Lodge at St. George. And so she at that point was expressing some judgment. She had been gossiping and talking about people, and she expressed judgment towards someone. And I said, maybe the reason why she ignored you had nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it might be that they actually were having a bad day, or there could have been a lot going on, and people just get wrapped up in their heads. They're just they're so into themselves in a way that they're so mental that they don't recognize or see anyone around them or anything. And even in a conversation you could be having with someone, they're not hearing you. And so maybe that was just it, and it had nothing to do with you. And then she got pissed off with me and started pointing at me and said, I am so offended by what you're saying to me. I'm important. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah,
she needs to
girlfriend,
be
you
seen and
are.
heard.
She did. So I just sat there and listened to her. And when she started attacking me, I'm like, yeah, I want to be important too.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I understand it. And I just listened to her. And I'm like, so are you going to hang out with me again? She goes, no. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
This morning I was really reminded of, have you heard Mel Robbins talk about the let them theory? She has a book coming out on it.
No.
Okay, because that's where I'm like, why are you like throwing stones at me? Like, I'm over here just trying to live my best life. No one knows what you're going through.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, when someone might ignore you, like they could have found out their dad had cancer the night before, or maybe their husband that morning told them they didn't want to be with them. Like, you have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
But I love the Mel Robbins theory, let them, where it's like, let them, let them live their lives. Like, let them be mad, let them be angry, let them go do whatever the fuck they want. Like,
let them drive by you fast.
Yeah. Like, let them cut you off. Like, what's the point of all this?
Right. Why are we taking this so deeply as a personal offense?
Yeah. And it was a reminder I needed this morning, because I was like, God, that was really mean, and I was taking it really personal, and like I was a horrible person. And this morning I was like, wait, let them be motherfuckers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that's kind of the attitude I feel like you have a lot of times. Like, she's coming at you in your face and you're like, we'll just let her do that.
Yeah. Like, okay, what else do you need to express? Anything else you need to get off your chest?
You did tell me how I'm not demure. You're like, we're sitting in a trash bar, but that's okay. You go ahead and tell me I'm not demure.
So great. I love my weather toothless friends.
Oh. I'm dying. So we went there. Letter.
This is where I learned interpretive dancing on a lot of substances.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's a live band that plays, and there's some people that literally do the best interpretive dancing barefoot, and they probably aren't even aware that people are watching them. But it's just really beautiful to watch, and so I like to recreate it at home when I'm...
Wait, that's a trend on TikTok right now.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it is. It's like making my boyfriend do an interpretive dance so he can stay the night, and then it'll say like, even though he lives here and owns this place, and he's like doing this like,
oh my God.
It's a really funny trend
That
right
is
now.
up my alley.
Yeah.
I fucking love doing interpretive dancing.
Yeah. So I think like going back to your Demure trend, like it was just like, a funny, like it was kind of a fun little comment, and it turned into this whole big thing.
Oh my God. So this is the fascinating part about it, is that women will totally attach themselves to these adjectives like demure and ladylike, and then they hold everyone else to it. And when you don't act in accordance to it, and you totally step out of the box and you just start saying, this is me, this is how I'm going to dress, and this is how I'm going to talk, and this is how I'm going to behave, and this is what I want to be. And they're like, no, and people start throwing rocks at you. And so sometimes it's verbal and sometimes it's energetic.
When we talk about the throwing rocks, what's interesting, and again, I can only, I can speak from, having videos get millions of views. So it's like you get the randos. So out of like hundreds of comments, there'll be like so much love, so much outpouring. And then you'll get like a couple randos that are like, you know, off the wall crazy. But it's like not that big of a deal. Like you can message back and be like, dude, you okay? Like, I have no idea what any of this means. You know what I mean? But I think what sucks is when the rocks are being thrown from people really close to you.
That is the hardest. It is true. Now, if that lady was my mother or my lover saying those things to me, it would cut deep for sure. And I still would probably act like I didn't give a fuck. And then I would go home and cry like for hours.
I know. So, okay. So so someone comes at you, like someone really close to you and is like, you're not Demure, you know, like.
I'd be like, you're fucking right. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not Demure. Oh my God. You're so right.
And then you go home and you internalize it and you're like, I fucking suck. Like, how do you come out the other side of that?
Well, I had this guy tell me that I require a lot of attention. And I was like,
I would say you require a lot of attention, but not in like a
needy way.
Yeah.
I know. So
I would say you even
about
require
it,
a lot of attention. I'd say your love language is more like being seen and heard.
Oh, absolutely.
And
which
you
is,
have a big energy, which people will look at, but that doesn't mean you're requiring attention.
And I
don't like that. He was intimidated. We don't like him.
And I love the gift of time. I'd love to spend time with someone that I like and do fun things.
Oh, time is big for me.
Yeah, same for me too. So at first I was like, oh God.
Like I'm too much.
Oh my God, that's
I'm not
right.
Demure.
I do
You're not very
require
mindful.
time. And then I was like, fuck that. I'm fucking worthy of every ounce of time. And, you know, I want someone that has that time for me. Like, that is so valuable to me. It's so hard to find anyone that really actually makes time for someone else in their life.
Did you ask him what like an appropriate amount of time was?
Well, for me, immediately I just went to sex. And I was like, well, so, I mean, are we not going to have sex then?
You're like, wait, does this mean that you're taking your dick home? Where are we going?
I'm like, I've got toys, so I'm okay. All right.
There's another
all
trend
by myself all the time.
There's a trend on TikTok too right now that says put your clothes back on. Actually, we're going to talk about, and it's like something funny usually, you know. And that I could see you're like, okay, let's put your clothes back on. We're actually going to talk about how I don't need you.
Right. Yeah. So here we are, back to boundaries for women. We are fucking worthy of anything and everything that we want in our lives. And if we're not getting that, then we should be going next.
Yeah. And, you know, we're all going to have character defects too. But just because we have these character defects doesn't mean that you're unworthy of like love, time, attention, and all of these amazing things in your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Can we put that on a quote graphic?
Hey, write it up, Sean. Just kidding.
He's like, oh shit, he's like, shit, I was
He's
scrolling Tinder.
Googling fans. What's some new fans that we can add to the podcast room? Because that's really hot in here.
I think it feels nice.
I'm just kidding.
I think it feels nice. My hands are even cold. But he did give me this crispy Diet Coke.
Oh, that's really nice.
And I'm a fan of crispy Diet Cokes. I just come by daily.
I have a feeling he is also, actually.
You're both welcome.
Thank you. That was very sultry.
So what other trends are you seeing with Demure lately on social media?
Well, that trend is, I think, come and gone.
You think for sure it has actually gone?
Yeah, I haven't seen it pop it up at all anymore. But that's like a mega viral trend. And I mean, you know, people go viral every day. But this is like, everyone knew this. Like Verizon put it on a commercial.
I mean, I didn't, though, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. Well, of course, like there's tribes in Africa that don't have cell phones. Like there's people who aren't on TikTok. Like I know tons of people that are on TikTok. The other day I sent one of my TikToks that I had made to my uncle. I was like, I know it sounds random, but I was like, he's really going to like this. And he's like, oh, I don't use TikTok. I was like, what? But then he actually made a TikTok so he could see my video I sent him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't think he would have if it was a random one, but I was like, it was a video of me, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like a little girl, you know? I was like, I just wanted to show you this thing I made.
That's really
But
cute.
I don't think people have to be on social media. Like, you don't have to do anything.
Right. But if you're not, then you're missing out on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And that's why my mom, you know, she's like on Instagram and it's just to like interact with me every morning. But that's like why she uses the apps. And she's like, I'm always telling your dad, she's referring to my stepdad, that he would know a lot more about your guys' lives if he got on social media.
Right.
But so she's like, I try every day to be like, look, show him the highlights. And I'm like, that's cute because it's kind of true. But I do like social media for the fact that like I can see like other people's lives, if that makes sense.
Right.
If you look at it from a healthy perspective, I'm like, it's kind of cool to see what my cousin's doing. Or I just saw my cousin got engaged actually, and I hadn't seen her, so she hadn't told me. And so that was really cool to see online.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But then why didn't she call you and tell you she was getting married?
Oh, it wasn't that big of a deal to me.
Okay. Okay.
You know?
Well, in my family, we're very minimalist when it comes to communication. If we hear from each other, it's because there's an emergency.
Yeah.
That's as deep as we get in our conversations generally. But back to Demure. So what are some of the other things what I find when there's a trend like this and something goes absolutely viral, that it really logs into people's unconscious mind.
It does. It does. It's like, you know, I was cracking jokes and very demure, which I didn't enjoy this trend. Like, not because I felt like it was telling me to be demure. It gave me the ick.
Right.
I was like, and not the person who created it. That dude seems totally cool. You know, I don't know him.
Oh, yeah.
But I just was like, if I hear this sound one more time, like it gave me the ick. Right. And I think it's because, you know, an adjective that I would describe myself as, you said people pick up these adjectives. I always say unhinged. Like I want to live my life a little unhinged.
Yeah.
That's more my vibe.
Right. Me, I want to be absolutely radiant.
Ooh.
It starts with my pussy.
But I feel like radiant also kind of goes into I'm very poised.
Radiance? Really? For me, I see radiance as literally like going,
Okay, I'm with you now.
like, everything's amazing. Life is absolutely wonderful. And I attract and magnetize everything and anything that I want.
Okay, just to challenge you a little bit here.
Okay, please challenge me. I love challenges.
Okay, so you're like, life is amazing. My friend sent me like the most beautiful poem yesterday morning. And the gist of it was like, if you were dying, you would ask God if you could come back for one more heartbreak, like one more bad day, one more this, because you really want, like, if you were dying, you would be like, I'm totally okay with like that shitty day. Let me just experience, you know, living one more time.
Absolutely.
And so when I think of stuff like that, like you're radiant, everything's positive, everything's amazing. There's also the flip side,
Right.
you know, of the coin where it's like,
It's not always like that.
yeah.
I absolutely agree completely. And I guess maybe I don't see radiance as positivity per se. I see radiance as literally me like bursting, my spiritual being bursting and cracking out of this human body.
Yeah, I think it's you just showing up as yourself all the time. Even if, I mean,
100%.
I'm not calling you out because I don't really give a shit, but you were like 15 minutes late today.
I was, and you wanted, and I had.
And I mean, it's not a big
17
deal.
minutes late, actually.
But I'm just saying it wasn't a big deal, you know?
Well, thank God, because I called Sean. He can be so like cantankerous sometimes.
I called you first. Where are you? You're late.
I was
Well, I
supposed
knew
to
you were
here
going
at
to be
9,
late. So
actually.
I was strolling. I just like mindfully, very demurely strolled up to the campus and was like, doo-doo-doo. So I came in 10 minutes late because I knew you were late. And then I was just sitting here chilling and he brought me a Diet Coke. Like it wasn't a big fucking deal, you know?
Right.
But when I think of you as radiant, you're like, even if you're 15 minutes late, you still come in with this big energy. This like, this is me and this is who I am. And that's something I admire about you.
Well, I also don't want to give myself a hard time about things and hold myself to a high standard. I've held myself to a really high standard for most of my life. And it's the plight of being the oldest child. It's the plight of being a woman. It's the plight of being type A. It's the plight of everything that I can want to put my finger on, right? And expectations that are put on us to perform a certain way. And being a single mom. I literally have to step up in a masculine and feminine way in my household to provide and to also mother and do all these things and blah, blah, blah. And so literally I have come to a breaking point in my life where it's called a fracturing. I feel like it's a fracturing where I am allowing this radiance to come forth and just be and allow myself to be and to give myself grace even when I'm late.
Yeah.
And not to give myself a hard time or beat myself up or stress out or drive like a fucking maniac. I mean, I drive fast anyways.
You're scary to ride with. It's radiant.
It's so radiant.
You're very radiant on that gas pedal.
Well, ironically, that same Sunday where that chick like became unhinged on me, I was driving to meet them and this guy was going slower than the speed limit. And finally we got to a point where it was 2 lanes and I could go around him. And I just literally floored it because I was like, I just want to get around this dude. It had nothing really to do with him. I was just like, I want to get somewhere. And he flipped me off. And I'm like, dude, what did I do to you?
Like
I'm just trying to drive fast. I'm just driving fast.
For going around him?
Yeah.
Huh. He didn't like your energy, but
Apparently
he didn't like
not.
that you weren't being demure. You should have been grateful for his presence.
Oh my God. Yeah, I saw a female driver and she's like, why is she driving fast? She should be driving demure. See,
Yeah.
and this is what happens. These viral things get into people's minds unconsciously, and then they expect certain behaviors or start performing behaviors. And the problem is that men expect that behavior from women also. And when you don't act like that, they don't know how to even handle it.
The right guy does. I mean, you don't want to like. I think this guy over here could handle it.
Who, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what am I handling? What?
I think that some guys definitely like. I think if they're not secure in who they are, they can't handle. You know,
Right.
Like, but that's I think the same with anyone. Even this woman that we're referencing. Obviously she's not secure in who she is, so she's throwing rocks at you. And men will do the same thing, where they're like, "Sit down and be quiet," because I'm not secure in my own manhood. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I've read a lot of books.
Well, okay. But is it because they're not secure in their manhood, or is it because they've just been programmed to expect
Or they have, a preconceived.
of how a woman should behave and
Yeah,
look
definitely.
and feel and all of that stuff?
Yeah. Especially like think about it. We can reference Mormonism because we're familiar with it, right? So think about it. Like, you grow up in Mormonism. I remember sitting in, was it beehives or whatever the fuck they called that shit? Laurels.
Oh, okay. You're talking about young women, the young women's program. I was so
Yeah.
lost there. See, this is how so deprogrammed I am now from the
Yeah.
Mormon church that I literally wasn't
Well,
following
I was
you.
just going for fun. Like my family didn't go, but it was like, a neighbor would pick me up and I'd go
And
to
what
church.
age is this at?
So I think I was 15. I was 15 because
Okay.
I remember I had my learner's permit and my parents would let me drive a lot. It was the 90s, guys. Okay. But yeah, I remember sitting in church and the topic, like the lesson that week, was how to be a happy homemaker. Mm-hmm. And, I've always just would ask questions. It's like school, how you can raise your hand and ask like a follow-up question and the teacher would explain it. And I was like, I have a question. Like, what if you want to go to college and stuff? And she was like, oh, well, I didn't go to college and I have just been preparing. This is probably like a 30-year-old woman telling me this too. She's like, I just was setting up to have a family because that's our jobs. And I was like, that's wild. And I remember closing my little, was it the quad Bible.
Oh yeah, the Bible.
Mine
Book
was
of
forest
Mormon.
green. My grandma had got it for me with my name on it. So I closed it and I was like zipping it up. I was being very demure actually. I was just choosing not to participate. And she's like, where do you think you're going? And I was like, I'm going to walk home. And she grabbed me in the hall. Like, cause I was just like, that's interesting. And she kept talking, giving her lessons. And I was just like, I'm just going to politely slip out. Grabs me in the hall and is like, well, I'm going to call your parents. You can't just leave church. And I was like, lady, my parents aren't here. And that was the last time I ever went because I was like, this is wild indoctrination.
Well, and to be honest with you, this sounds so fucking wild, but I went to BYU and my sole intent and purpose was also to find my forever love and mate and be sealed in the temple.
Wasn't that what most students at BYU are doing as well?
Yeah, I mean,
getting
I
your
don't
education
know
and-
currently if that's the case.
I mean-
I feel like things have really transitioned a
That's
lot
true.
in Provo, Utah.
Well, I did grow up in Utah County. So, I mean, that was how it was when I was there. But I am 39. So,
And I'm 49.
yes, I'm going to be 40 next soon, February.
That's super exciting.
I'm exciting. And you're going to be 50?
Oh my God, I don't even want to think about it.
Really? I'm so
Into-
excited to turn 40.
When I turned 40, it was the biggest celebration of my life. I was
Yeah?
like, fuck yeah, I have made it. Look at where I'm at. I am independent. I went to Thailand for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I sold like 4 houses while I was in Thailand. And I was like, I'm the woman.
You were feeling like in your prime?
Oh, so in my prime. I love my 40s. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredibly empowering.
Why are you not looking forward to 50?
I just haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I've really embraced my 40s so much that I haven't even looked at the 50 mark.
Can you write that? You're going to read this book. You're going to make it to page 20.
In 6 months.
And then you're going to be like, fucking 50.
Okay, let's go back to this book. What was the point of Women Who Run with Wolves? Basically, we need to rewild ourselves.
Yeah. When was that book written? Is it 70s? Or am I dating it? I was trying to find the date before we started. I know this is an older book. I've had it recommended to me a lot to read. So I need to dive in.
Don't see a date.
But I feel-
1992. First hardcore edition.
Okay.
Hardcover.
But I feel like, that's still, quite a while ago. It's over 30 years ago. And I feel like,
This is absolutely inspired writing. And I highly recommend reading it.
and for the times, I feel like it was groundbreaking. You know?
Absolutely. And I feel like it's still groundbreaking now because these trends like Demure and ladylike back in the day, are trying to contain us and keep us a certain way. And we need to literally step into our authenticity. We need to wild ourselves. We need to literally
What is
be
wild?
unapologetic. So
What does it look like to you, though, to wild yourself?
to match ourselves to Mother Earth, to sync up with her cycles,
Yeah.
to literally blow with the wind when the wind blows, to literally jump into the river and go with the flow of it.
I was going to say,
to literally
I feel
slow
like it's
down
just enjoying your life and flowing with life.
and having fun.
Yeah.
So I taught this course for women a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about some really simple practices that seemed absolutely mind-blowing to them. I was like, just slow down. Slow your day down. Don't rush. Take a moment, like 30 minutes to an hour at the very beginning of the day, and just sit quietly. No engagement with anyone or anything. Just nature or yourself.
Yeah.
And
That will actually change your life.
100%. And then I told them, turn some music on and start dancing. Like, feel your body. I even said, touch yourself. Like one night,
Touch my body.
8 years ago, when I decided that I was done being even more contained, I literally just laid in bed and felt my boobs. And I was like, my boobs feel so great.
Yeah.
And I had never done that.
Yeah.
And so I literally shared the story. So we're all just like, feeling ourselves and touching ourselves. And people are like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. We need to be literally getting in touch with our sensuality, because our sensuality are our senses, and our senses is our intuition. And so when we get in touch with our senses, like touching ourselves, like feeling the wind blow through our hair, or literally tasting the food that we're eating, like just seriously slowing down and tuning into all of our senses helps us tune into our intuition, and then gets us literally into ourselves and who we truly are, because we're not cookie cutter. We're not like everyone.
And it's a very personal journey, too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's maybe why, is because, you can read in a book what someone says to do, and you're saying to do X, Y, and Z, but it might not actually, it might be a little different for you, So it's like, get up in the morning, go the fuck outside, and figure out what it is you want.
Right. And sometimes, though, you don't even need to be clear. That's the problem. We set expectations on us for a certain particular performance. And even like my morning ritual that I do, I don't have any set expectations or to-do lists or things that I need to do during that morning ritual. I literally flow with it.
Well, and everyone wants a how. I want a how. I'm always like, well, tell me how to do it, and I'll do it. And then you're like, that's like fucking with God in the universe.
Yeah.
There isn't a how. It's like, you just have to do it.
And just literally do it and just step into it. And then see, how does this feel for me? Do I like this?
That's Heather. You're
Yeah.
onto something.
Right. And that's why we need to be in tune with our bodies. If we're not touching ourselves, if we're not in tune with our senses, our bodies are telling us what we need and want. And then we also have cycles, and we need to be embracing those cycles more. I've hated it forever. I've honestly not enjoyed having those cycles and those emotions and stuff. And I had this really profound conversation with my dad where he told me that when he treated women holistically, they became balanced, and they became very intuitive and clairvoyant, and their clairs opened up, their senses opened up even more. And I said, why do you think that is? Because he never believed that men had the capacity to do that. And he said, it's because of our hormones. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for my hormones, because they have given me the capacity to be deeply intuitive and perceptive. And so we forget about that as women, because we're just told to be demure and ladylike and to contain ourselves. And we are not meant to be contained as women.
Let them say what they want.
Throw rocks.
And I do think we have to recognize it is hard to push back. You know what I mean? But when you finally enter that zone where it's like, you don't give a fuck.
Is it pushing back? I'm not pushing back. I'm literally just keep on doing my thing.
Yeah.
And either people hate me or they don't.
Yeah. But I'm not saying it's without challenge, though.
Yeah, there are challenges. And so you just definitely have to just acknowledge that they are where they're at in their understanding and belief systems, and just have kindness and compassion towards them. And I kind of feel sorry for them.
Yeah. And I think the best thing you can do, though, is just do you.
Yes.
Like,
and not worry about anyone else.
Yes. And I do, it's like, shut down social media for a while, shut down like going anywhere, like do whatever it takes to get to that point.
Right. And it is okay to shed people and to shed things from your life. And it is okay to retreat and withdraw and go within.
Well, and you also need to be okay with like people shedding you.
Yeah, that is true too.
It's like, fucking let them go. Let me go. Like, just let me be.
Right. Well, I was talking about this at a party last night to someone that I didn't make it onto a leadership board. And I welcomed it. When I got that rejection, I was like, thank you for showing me that we're not in alignment together and that I have other bigger and better things to be doing and accomplishing and achieving rather than just literally being with some people who are possibly scared of me.
Beautifully said. Cheers to being not demure.
And being scared of us.
Shake it out.
Thanks, Samantha, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the I Drank the KoolAid podcast. Join us next time. If you'd like to participate in this discussion, get a hold of us at idrankthekooladpodcast@gmail.com. Now let me ask you, what flavor of Kool-Aid are you drinking?
This has been a production from a podcast studio.